machine learning is transforming the media ecosystem all around the world, presenting both new opportunities and challenges at the same time. We have journalists, writers, designers, artists, musicians, cartoonists, animators, you name it, who are still trying to understand what AI and machine learning is and how they can use this new tech in their work. Still, its impact is felt differently in Africa, as by the case of Summersource in Nairobi, where Meta outsourced their content moderation work. The adoption of these technologies often rely on cheap and exploited labor in Africa. This panel discussion will seek to examine the ways in which African media and creative professionals can harness the power of these technologies to enhance their work while also navigating the potential downsides, all against the backdrop of the emergence of this technology. So I'd like to pose, in simpler terms, what is AI and what is machine learning? Yeah.
Hope you can hear me. See. Okay. I'll actually put it again to the panel. How many of us know what AI and ML is? Raise your hand. Okay. How many of those who raised their hands can explain to a child what AI and ML is? So, so as a rule of thumb, if you can't explain something to a child, then you don't understand it as deeply as you think. So the goal here is, before we even get to how journalism has been impacted with AI, what is AI and ML? To the please. Sorry. To the common person like me and you. So I'll explain it. The grand vision, picture me, stay with me, I'll be looking at you guys, those who are looking down. The grand vision is artificial intelligence, which is to simulate human intelligence. That's the vision. So that's our North Star. We want these machines to have a human-like intelligence. We're together, yes? And under this vision, okay, so what is human intelligence? One of the things that encompasses human intelligence is that we learn. We're here learning. So how do humans learn? If today, Winnie, today you're supposed to learn calculus. The way you learn calculus is continuous practice. That's how a human being learns. Continuous practice. Same thing to a machine. Continue exposing a machine to more and more data, and a machine gets better at learning. So let's picture this. This is a kid. I'm explaining this to a kid. If we show this machine 10 pictures of a pizza, it learns. Oh, this is what a pizza looks like. The square, the one. 100 pictures, it's like, okay. 1,000 pictures, it gets better at learning, just like you get better at calculus. So machine learning is a subset of AI, which is the grand vision, again, to simulate human intelligence. Yeah. So I want you guys to remember that I want to go deeper that time. So we've known what machine learning is, right? We're clear on machine learning, right? And I want to give an example using our phones, day-to-day phones, our Google. So our Gmail uses has trained models to know what emails are spam and what is not spam. So the more emails it's getting, the more it's learning, oh, this is spam, this is not spam. So that's machine learning, just using your Gmail, as simple as that. Now, there's a very thin difference between machine learning and AI. Very thin, even though it's a subset. Machine learning and AI, very thin difference. So machine learning is training to do. So to ensure that we can see this is spam, this is not spam. But artificial intelligence is training to be more human-like. ChatGPT is very human-like, yeah? So the difference is there. I hope we're clear. Have we understood that? So the difference is training to be and training to do. But the North Star is to simulate human intelligence. That is the baseline of AI and ML.
Interesting. I think I have small understanding. Yeah. I'd like to know from you, in what ways do you think AI and machine learning has helped to give a voice to marginalized communities in Africa?
I was looking at not the first person because I actually have a rebuttal to that question. I'd like that you explain AI and machine learning. These two things exist in the context of a society, right? Whatever the machine is learning is within the context of a society. Now, the question is asking, what has machine learning done for marginalized communities? If anything, AI is, as we accelerate, I have an actual concern for what this means for marginalized communities. And I'm going to give a very quick example with money in Kenya. And I'll give a very simple one for Fuliza, or the limits you get for credit. Now, the way the credit system has been set, the algorithm, the AI, the way it's been set by the bank, it's been set according to certain standards, right? The rich people, like how the machine is taught, the first data that this machine was receiving, imagine when banks were open, of course, Mama Mboga was probably not banking in the bank at that time, right? And even now, when you think about it, the banks have not evolved their credit systems in a way that if Mama Mboga walks in, they won't be judged the same way. I think you've been hearing business people say, I go to the bank, I never get loans. Or my Fuliza limit never goes beyond 500, right? So for me, I do feel like AI as is, there is that question when it comes to things to do with surveillance. Surveillance affects the most marginalized. The data is biased towards the people who have power in systems. So I would, to be disingenuous for me to not to be, it's helpful because I don't think we'll be putting into context the system in which this AI is operating. So I don't know what the panelists have to.
It's good you pointed that out. Let me just bring some context to you. So those two fellas there, let's raise your hand. Those are really interesting. They're hackers. For lack of better words, an easier way of it. So we came across something some time back on the website, a portal called GitHub, where software developers need their code, right? We came across a particular loan application in Kenya. We're not mentioning which one, and please guys don't mention, which it is. This company, actually, when you install the loan apps, it asks for your access to contacts, SMS, and a whole lot of things. We actually found details of everybody's SMS that they will receive. Yes, it was online for over 4 years. A loan company in Kenya, very big one for that matter. So they pick up all the contacts, so you see all the contacts have a phone number. So it looks at the fact that, has Bright been calling with them how many times a week? So if I've been calling you 3 times a week, it knows. If I've asked, then they put keywords for, how do you call it, for the conversation analysis. It looks like borrow, kudale, please, tafadhali. Yes, all the keywords, even Swahili words, are all in that code. So we studied that for some time. So if it says that I've started asking you for money, and all of a sudden, after you send me 5,000 Kenya shillings, whenever I call you, don't pick up. It even looks at the duration of the calls, or how long the phone rang, or how many missed calls. All of that data is there. I still have them. I can show you after this. Okay, no, not show you. But it has that record. So that machine learning algorithm started seeing all the patterns. So it's like, no, if Bright has borrowed 5,000 Kenya shillings and he couldn't pick up because he could not pay back when then, don't give Bright more than 5,000. That's how the credit limits have been working.
That's very disadvantageous.
Exactly. But the thing is, if you look at it, it's not like Bright didn't want to pay back. Bright was too busy. Bright was out of the country. Bright has access to no M-Pesa. Bright did not have access to, like last week, and I lost access to my WhatsApp for like a week. Does that mean I'm not available? No. If people did not see me on social media, they didn't have any other way to actually contact me except email. Are we together? So there could be that. So the kind of data that we feed in these systems is going to be the way that it will determine the outcomes of how the AI is going to come out. I still feel AI is not where AI is supposed to be. We're just using it because it's a nice word. AI, but we're still 90% machine learning. Because the amount of data that we need to actually make that AI work would need years and years of that data. I used to work at a company where we took about 10 years of data from cancer. We were able to write the code to be able to actually study the patterns of procurement processes, right? To see exactly how distribution, supply chain intelligence. And we started to see the way a particular person is the reason why. So when a supplier for cancer is late, it's not the medication has not been released not because of him, it's because of something at cancer. And she blame the supplier for not supplying the medicine to Kajiado or Barinza just because they are blaming him, right? So it's because the data, we actually analyze that data, we said the COVID vaccines that were coming are going to expire in the next few number of days. Guess what? We're right. You see, that's because the data that exists. But that was 10 years of data to be able to make that intelligent decision of machine learning and data science. But AI, for it to study something and start making decisions by itself, is really going to take a long time. Because in that pizza size is the size, and I cut it out and I take out that one and it goes together. The size has changed. It's not the same pizza, but it's not the medium size, you know, it's a different size now. So I think we're still a little bit far from the actualization of AI. It's still a long way to come.
You feel like this is just within the African context or
No, globally. Globally, and I think a lot of people are just, even when it comes to sales, a lot of people are using the whole word AI tools can do this for you. I used to work at a company where we were sold to an AI solution to be able to actually do the threat intelligence. I said, no, threat intelligence needs a lot of human intervention. But with the machine learning algorithm, you can study a pattern and remove what they call false positives, right? So the level 1 support engineer will not do that anymore. It will reduce because of patterns that they see. But it's actually seeing the wrong thing. I once fed it the wrong data for a whole week, and it believed that it was the right thing. Right now, before we came, I sent an email to you from, who was it? Here. I forced an email from him to her. The email, okay, it's not a hack, it's just a script that I wrote that can do that. It's easy to actually spoof any email. And 90% of organizations in Kenya, their emails are not safe. You can actually spoof them. So now, if that email came to you, you saw it in your spam, and you told it not spam. You've already taught it to say, any other email writes spoofs from that kind of code should be accepted. You see, if it was that intelligent, this is Google. Come on, how can Google was not able to pick that up? Yet it knows what is spam and what is not spam. So again, AI is really going to take a long time for it to be actualized.
Just to add on what you're saying, she's saying it's really a mirror to us. What you feed it is what's the output. It's really a mirror to humans.
I don't know if you remember the whole story of Tesla cars where Sikh people, they don't recognize black people, but the first few times they're always seeing anyone but black people. So they actually were crushing people on the road and everything. And also this whole story about summer not paying very low. I don't think you guys get the full story. Summer employees, most of them are taken from the slums, taught how to be able to actually do all of this computer-based learning and everything. They're given food, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Before you go home in the evening, you're given dinner to take home. They're given transportation. How much does a teller in the bank get? 30K, and they charge them the tax. So if the $2 they're getting is actually a good starting point, majority of them grow to a different level. I don't think that context has not been built out. So I don't totally agree to the fact that they're being taken advantage of. The only part which I don't have information on is, are they being, the mental health issues that come with the information they've been exposed to, are they being given help? because they have to supply data of sexual images. Can you imagine looking at that every day, 1 week? Are we together?
Yeah.
So that's the only part I don't know. But I say when it comes to payment, that exploitation is not really there. But if it comes to other part of things, there is a possibility that if they're not giving that no, I'm talking about the starting salary. How much do interns can you get?
No, but that's not the point.
Okay, I'm not saying that's the point. I'm not supporting the fact that they're being paid $2 an hour. No, I'm not supporting that. I'm only saying there's more to that story than we think. Should they be paid better? More than that, yes. For a starting point, as for the first 6 months, that is normal salary in Kenya.
No.
But you see, we find
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, like you say, I think if you get to me wrong, I'm not supporting that. I'm only adding that I think a lot more can be done in support of the kind of work they do. Because if it's just normal sweeping and cleaning, I think it's fair. But if it's for the kind of work they're doing, content moderation is
Can we speak about AI?
okay, yeah.
So, sorry, I wanted to come back to journalists now also and on matters tech, yeah? So we've heard that these things exist, and I really, for example, we had this KNBS report released just the other day. And what we had, the output we had, and they use a lot of AI to to come up with some of this stuff and to help put together that bulk of that kind of big data needs a lot of machines to help you put together, right? So what happens, we got the information, then we don't put it into context of how people have gotten data and whatnot, right? So that's also not the other thing now maybe posed as a challenge to us now even within the journalism industry and AI, is that whenever we get data that's considered big data, it has obviously gone through AI without a doubt. No human being sat through and came up with Excel bars themselves, right? So I'm saying now that some of the things I do feel like we need to be more careful about, that it's not that people are just borrowing or Kenyans are not being given enough money. Which Kenyans? And why are they not?
And I think even to add to that, there's self-perception, right? From a content perspective, we have augmented reality apps that can create filters, for example. So there was this complaint at some point that if you use the fattening filter, if you overdo it too much, it becomes darker. If you do it lesser, it will become lighter. So you find some of these data sets are based on European or rather the West in general, which is slightly problematic. So even for us when we're making some of our augmented reality experiences, we have to find a way, which is massively expensive, to kind of create our own data set that will be more inclusive, because we also try to make sure that it's not just African, because other people from Africa, from beyond, will use that. So self-perception is very important, where you have makeup filters that will, make you lighter, or this and that. I think it's very easy for, and I think it's happening for people to have some sort of identity crisis with that. So even from a content perspective, leave alone just even money. You can imagine now, you're broke, those guys are reading the text, and they're kind of saying you need this get a loan and all that, and then you pop up your Instagram filter, you're at this fancy place where you can't really afford, and it's making you lighter, so it's really problematic. Yes.
Wendy, now that you're talking about extended reality and augmented reality, how then do you think we can be able to democratize, how can extended reality be democratized in the practice?
Great, so I'm going to define what extended reality is, because I'm not that astute. So it's an umbrella term for virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. Virtual reality is simply a computer simulation that is kind of made by a VR headset. Made by humans, but kind of consumed on a VR headset. augmented reality is superimposing digital assets onto the real one. I mentioned about filters, that's an example of augmented reality. Then mixed reality has an identity crisis. It doesn't know what it is right now, but it's simply just mixing both virtual reality and augmented reality. There isn't a commercial tool that exists for mixed reality as we speak, but I think the Meta Quest 3 should be having that kind of capability. So when it comes to democratization, AR, augmented reality becomes the number one thing to look at because smartphones, right? I think Kenya has one of the highest penetration of smartphones in Africa. And if we can create customer experiences, narratives with augmented reality, that means people can even have that experience at home. It's not kind of set on a specific location. With VR, the headsets are massively expensive. As much as they used to be way more expensive, but they're still still expensive. The dollar is going up, the exchange rate is very harsh. Customs charge us exactly, so for example, if the headset is $400, customs charge us $400. Then the shipping company, of course, will charge us way more because they know, yeah, if you can afford one, they'll ask you to pay more. And I won't mention the company. So all these things, so by the time your headset arrives in Kenya, we're talking about $1,000 per headset with no accessories. Now, headsets are made with the Western market in mind. That's why you can't even find distributors here. You find that the straps are not meant for Africa. And that's the challenge we're actually having downstairs. We did get straps that can accommodate that, but it can't accommodate all hairstyles. So you find it's a real problem. Mine to a certain extent. It's a real problem, especially with African women. So we try to see how can we even improvise and make something that African women can wear without them having to ruffle their hair and stuff like that. So VR is getting to a point where it's going to get affordable, maybe at the price point of a very low smartphone, but at the same time it still needs like a lot of internet access and all that, which is an extra cost. So AR is kind of the best way to look at it. How we've used the AR and how we currently use the AR is number one, customer experiences. So for SMEs, how can they take their customer experience at home? Number one, try it before you buy. So if you're selling a hat, you can make a 3D asset, and you can try different hats with AR, with that AR filter. That way, somebody can send a screenshot like, hey, I want this hat. Even makeup. We're talking about lipstick. I don't know the rest. And so on and so forth. So there's a try before you buy. You also have kind of a novelty experience, right? So if we partnered with the chocolate taster, and he wanted to kind of create a trivia. So we used Instagram to make a filter so that if you tilt your head this way, you choose an answer. If you tilt your head this way, you choose another answer. So that way people at home can even have a trivia night at home with that augmented reality experience. There's also narrative experiences whereby if it, and we're talking about marker-based AR, meaning that if you scan a sort of marker, and I'm not talking about a QR code, it could be, let's say, yeah, a logo, even something like this. You scan it, and maybe a 3D experience can come through. Let's say a coconut tree, and it shakes, and it's a coconut tree. That's also another way of kind of taking that experience home. And also still kind of showcasing in terms of whatever products that you may have. So that's how we've kind of used it, and we're really young to work with SMEs. We work with multinationals because they've seen this technology in other markets. So it's an easy buy. SMEs tend to shy away because they think it's expensive, and it's actually quite affordable. Yeah. So,
for example, I was discussing with someone earlier on that what if anybody can scan the logo wherever they find it and get all the experience they need to do.
Exactly.
The logo can be from Google, can be on the streets, can be on the floor. So far as it's your logo, it's embedded in it instead of using the QR codes and everything.
Exactly.
And that's an experience. You can't get that anywhere. I mean, it's a faster way of spreading news and data.
Exactly. QR codes are not boring. Of course, I have a bias. And hot tech please stop using QR codes in places where you don't need to use QR codes. We don't need them in restaurants. We don't need them. Yes, running for president. We don't need them in airports. During the pandemic, I saw an old man with a tiny phone who couldn't speak English, and he's holding me by the collar and he's trying to ask for help in his language because they won't let him through. So please stop using QR codes in places where you don't have an alternative or where it's inconvenient. A menu and scanning a QR code at a restaurant, a menu is faster. Come on. Let's do that. Exactly.
So we did an experiment in 2016 on the PhD research, and I wanted to see how many people actually fall for a particular kind of scam. So if you go to the QR code, when you go to that QR code, you go to the website. I want to go to the website and do your entire browser history. I know where you are. I can force you to go to the website you're not supposed to go to. Basically, I can force your laptop to do things just by scanning. And you're not clicking anything, you just go into the website. That website still exists till today. Still active. Nothing has been able to put it down, and that's just one. So before you even scan the QR code and the likes, but to see if it's a particular logo and you can there's an affiliation to that company, you can trace it back to that creator. That QR code, you don't know where it's coming from.
Interesting. There's so many good aspects of this new tech. What do you feel is some of the ugly bits about this new tech, and usually what are the unforeseeable risks that we should anticipate with machine learning, AI, and all this new tech? Perhaps
I see a lot of data issues, data governance issues as they arise. People's data are being collected, people's data are being misused in ways that we don't understand. And if you look at the Data Protection Act of 2019 from Kenya, that's already the consequences already to how people misuse data. Me getting or us getting access to that data of people in Kenya, looking at the SMSs and that, I knew who was cheating on each other. I could have actually just exposed it, right? Because the data is there. Should I prosecute the company? Yes, if my data was there, I would actually look through, but I don't use that alone. If my data was there, I actually would have prosecuted them. But I mean, I try to talk to a few lawyers and tell them, come on guys, we need to do something about this. If that was the United States, they would have shut down. There would have been a huge fine to that. So the regulatory processes are really going to become a problem. Eventually, I think we will get there. There's a rising issue in all of those cases. The fact that a lot of impersonation can also happen is going to become something else. So far as your voice is out there on the internet, I'm speaking right now, and those cameras are recording. Somebody can replicate my voice. I think you also got video from Brad Pitt. We used to speak to so many voices. The guy says it's on LinkedIn, it's everywhere right now. I think it's on time. Very soon it will spread. You'll get in the WhatsApp groups very soon. He's able to speak as 3 different people, saying what he wants to say. Which music artist was that? Who actually took Eminem's voice to ChatGPT to create music? David Guetta, yeah, exactly. And he played it, and he had to use so many tools to be able to actually make music like Eminem. And it wasn't Eminem, you know? And so if you look at that, a lot of privacy issues are really going to come, and I'm really scared for how those can be. Because if I can call the bank, speak like you, ask for them to actually make an approval of something that you did not authorize, that's going to be crazy. There's somebody kind of who lost £1 million. You know how? Of course, the emails were hacked between him and the communication between him and his the contractor where he's buying a house in the UK. So they registered other emails that look like exactly his, and they sent money in the middle, so the person was communicating. However, he's a billionaire. So when he tells the bank, send the money by voice, you're not questioning that. He's not sending an email. So they send emails forcing him saying, you need to pay now. You don't check the bank account details, pay now, otherwise you're going to lose the deal. The 25% we're giving you, you're losing it today if you don't pay right now. He called the bank and said, guys, send the money. Like now, they're like, sir, the emails, no. Send it now. Imagine if somebody can mimic your voice and do the exact same thing. If they know the entire process of how it works. that to me was scary. He lost that $1 million euros, and we never got it back.
That's quite a tragedy, honestly. Because I remember around the holidays, there was this trend where TikTok had a filter where basically it generates your face in another. I don't know if you are aware of this trend where you are just placing your camera and then it gives you your face in another, reality. I don't remember the name of that filter yet, but if it can replicate your biometrics, so it's so easy for anyone to get it from you.
Yeah, and even in the spirit of that, my biggest concern is for the artists. So you find that they're using data sets off the internet without their consent, and they're making money out of it. So, but here's the thing, there are a number of class action lawsuits that are being filed in the UK and in the US, but they might use. You see, something that is copyright, let's say this one, is this, right? Not something like it. So how can they prove that it's been able to replicate an exact same piece as an art? Maybe from the back end, they look at it that, okay, yeah, they use their stuff. But somebody might say inspiration. You can't copyright inspiration, you can't trademark it. And generally, you actually can't define what inspiration is. Because since you're a kid to all the way to adulthood, you've seen a lot of things, even subconsciously. So once you're giving inspiration to this kind of machine learning and AI, how can you sue the makers of that?
I'm scared for people losing their jobs.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a massive concern for me, and why it's very close to my heart is because we train artists to use these XR tools to make art. And it's very close to us mostly because we know artists, if we don't give them this access, they'll never have access to it. And we've been having these discussions of what does it mean for us as artists, or even as a company, what can we do to make sure that their stuff is not ending up on such databases and all that. But I kind of have hope, because when Canva came out, for those who are familiar with Canva, people said graphic designers are finished, right? And that was not the case. So the way I see it is that such kind of AI or machine learning will be used as brainstorms, that's how we want to execute this, or give you an idea of what something might look like. So it might not necessarily replace what artists are, but my biggest concern also is that art is sentimental. We don't manufacture art. We don't have a slaughterhouse for art. We don't mass produce it. We have individual people with individual identities with different perspectives. So once we have this thing that can make an astronaut on the moon playing ping pong, it starts to defeat what we human beings define as art. And it stops being art if it's not sentimental. That's my biggest concern.
But if you look at jobs, I'm really worried about people. The artists get to choose their jobs.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, I have to give a designer a PowerPoint presentation to make it look better.
Yeah.
I have a Canva and do it very easily with Canva Pro, which doesn't cost too much.
Yeah.
You look at a music artist, trying to make beats back in the day, you have to use, what's that beats that you take called? What we call it?
Fruity Loops.
Fruity Loops. Yeah, they just think, but now you just have to clap your hands a few times and then it generates a lot of things. And I feel like the media space is going to really suffer unless we start embracing those new kinds of AI machine learning tools and working on top of them. We're going to lose. But if you want to start thinking that you'll do the same kind of recording ways of doing things and expect the same result, you're going to fail. If you use this Adobe, one of the top two, where you speak and you have a lot of background noise, it removes all the background noise for you. Back in the day, if I have to use Photoshop to remove the background image just to get, now you just have to take a picture with your iPhone and it actually gets you out of it. Even remove other people in the background I mean, it's becoming so much easier, but we need to learn and see how can we use that. How can we work on top of what we already have? A few years ago, the internet was poor. We didn't have access to the Google and the ChatGPTs and everything. But now that we have it, we need to just work smarter and be able to come on top of that.
So the fear is that if we are not able to progress with this positions or jobs that actually become permanent.
And it's all about evolving, isn't it? Like, it's not that you want to lose your job immediately because it's still being developed. In that kind of space, you need to ask yourself, fine, where do I need to be when this thing starts to work out? What other things can I do? And Kenyans are great for that. It's a good thing and a bad thing, whereby somebody is a producer, director, sound guy, they do everything. It's a horrible culture and it's happening to everybody. But it might be advantageous to some. I think if you're not doing anything tech related in whatever creative space you're in, you're sort of in danger. You need to understand what's happening and how can you plug in into the future. Otherwise, you become redundant very quickly.
I think the number of people who got laid off recently, the states and everything, majority of them are actually HR managers, hiring managers. Majority. Do you know why? Because they automated the process of actually recruiting people. If you look at LinkedIn, I talked to a few people at LinkedIn some time back. It took about 50 people to engineer the search button. That search, by the way, it search for something. It took a lot of people to work on that to be so intelligent. Now, there's so many AI machine learning tools that filter through the CVs and everything, reduces all of that, and becomes very intelligent and we get it to know. So a lot of those people, they're not even techies who are losing jobs a lot more. It's people in human resource, people in procurement processes, because everything is not getting automated.
I think just to add on to what they're saying, I do think it's like there's two sides to it. People will lose their job only if what you're doing is very repetitive. I feel like I know that machine learning, it feeds off of us, yes. We train these machines, so it's limited in terms of creativity. Machines they don't have creativity, they're not like human beings. So there's a limit as to where they can take a job. So if you look at what Bright is saying, the jobs like HR, there's a repetitive aspect to it. So if you're in a field, I call it a volatile field, where what you're doing is repetitive, has no element of creativity, that's something you can easily train a machine to do. So I think that is where I don't think jobs will be lost. I think we will get into a season of working, where we work together with the AI tools. But if your work is repetitive, these tools will work for you, or will work in your case. Yes.
Just very quickly, I want to take us back to 1960, Wall Street Journal. One of the headlines was robots rise. And it was like a frenzy. So robots are here, we no longer have jobs. Are people still working? Hi, the next one I want to take us to is ATMs. When ATMs came into the market, we were like bank tellers, you're out. What has happened in the banking industry is their jobs, some of the things they were doing were dropped, that's true. There are things also like their JD, some of them evolved, right? So it's a series of, we are not doomed. We are not actually doomed in journalism. Journalism requires a lot of human input. So it's, for example, ChatGPT. As an editor, I know for me, when I put work on ChatGPT, it can paraphrase or build it. Now it's for me not to put it into context for my people. So it's not taken away my job, but it has revolved and evolved what my JD looks like. So that's, I'm not too worried about, and I feel like this has been a conversation that has been going on for any time there's new tech, people will go.
The end is not.
Yeah, and it's like the end is not here. What's here is more or less an evolution into just like we're being transformed into just a different space and a different way of working. It's not an end to our careers.
I agree with you, and it's all a matter of evolving into that space, right? And my perspective is that you want to lose your job if you don't evolve to that space.
So adapt.
Yeah, you don't adapt.
Can I add, we were talking about the ugly of the AI, and one of the things is, like I mentioned, these machines are mirrors to us. And Mike said he fed a machine wrong information, and it will still take it as right information. So if you say, okay, this machine is a mirror to a human being, a human has both good and bad. So it's going to mirror both good and bad. So there's that element where there's a potential risk in terms of harmful, whether it can cause harm if we give it harm, because it's a mirror. Yeah.
I'm just curious to know how, now as in the media ecosystem, how will you be able to use this new tech, the machine learning, the AI, to be able to align with the ethical principles and be able to protect the privacy of our audiences, right?
That's a very difficult one because the very thin line between ethical, the work I do is done. With ethical and being able to actually, it's very difficult to separate them because there's a lot of availability of information. For you to not use it is going to be very difficult as well. So it will take some time, and there's a lot of awareness issues that we need to actually address and get people aware of what are the consequences, and the law has to come in place. I think if we don't get more lawyers to be able to tackle some of these issues, we are going to have a very difficult problem in the future when it comes to all of these machine learning and the like that we're talking about. I'm happy that in Kenya we're seeing some of those come to place, where somebody's talking about you in WhatsApp, in the Facebook group or WhatsApp group, with an active to court. It's invisible, it's electronic evidence. And this, with the rule of law, you're actually going to get charged. Some have been charged, and I love the fact that it's happening. We need more lawyers to be able to take that up. So, yeah, just going to take a lot of time, but awareness is the only thing I see coming.
Just to add to that, I'm a cynic about this. Why are AI and machine learning companies telling US and legislators to kind of create policies? Why are they telling them? Because they know they can't catch up. Right? They just know. I mean, how long does it take to advocate for something and for you to reflect it to the law and for you to actually work? So, to me, I'm as cynical about it. The end is not. It's just a matter of stakeholders, and I think if people can make enough noise, not even just lawyers, we need to make such serious noise about it, because if we don't do anything about it now, by the time these things work perfectly, there's no going back. How are you telling legislators to create policies for AI? They don't even know what it is, and these guys are already on the third generation, maybe. So really, I'm a very big cynic when it comes to that. I don't think much is going to happen from a policy perspective anytime soon. And by the time they got to the pants down, the AI will lift the pants up for them. So yeah, I think it's up to the people. We need the lawyers to come up and make noise about it. We need the media to make noise about it. If we need to go to the streets. We need to tell them to pay attention, right? Otherwise, it might just be too late. How does Microsoft invest billions into this ChatGPT? And is it a month or a week later they have a presentation of it? You don't typically see that. They take time to create a product. So the fact that they're in a hurry, and it even costs Google how many billions with that?
100
because it made one simple mistake. Shareholders are like, nah, we're going to Microsoft. That tells you something. And if we don't make noise now, it's practically, it's going to be great.
So maybe for me, working now as a journalist, there are 4 things, like my metric for when I'm using AI, yeah, so that like it's more like ethical. As Greg said, we don't know how much of this is. So my 4 things is, the first one is inclusivity. So if it's for data sets, from where, which people have these data sets focused on. If it's your dashboards, I'd like to know what's behind this, who funded, So the inclusivity bit is a really huge thing for me. Then explainable. Can you explain your process? Like if it's dodgy, as you said, like if it's something that's just, I can't tell how we get to having an old face, but I get there. That's a bit sus. Yeah? So for me as a journalist in my work, I'll not use AI that I cannot clearly and very easily explain to someone the process of, like just how it works. Then the other thing for me personally, that's positive purpose or intent. So that's also very, I think, subjective to what positive intent would look like. But for me, case by case, because I'm an OSINT expert, open source investigative. So that's one of the, for example, verification tools. You just, I'm just like, sometimes you get things and the intention, there are tools you use as you're saying, right? But like positive intention. I didn't go there with malice. I was not there to, someone up. And sorry, lastly, responsible use of the data. That's my last metric. According not to just the things that make the AI ethical for me. Have they used, is there responsible use of data? What are the data policies around this? What do you do with data that you've collected? Do people know I have access to this data? Yeah, so those are the metrics personally I use before like deploying or employing AI into my process.
And I think maybe even adding into that sourcing, where you're getting that data set.
Yes.
That I think it needs to be doing that.
Yes.
We're always talking about cocoa that has blood on it, but also AI that is stealing pennies from people's banks. We need to look at where is that data being sourced from. It's a lot of work to get data sets from the original owners. It's really expensive. But can you imagine a scenario whereby medium-sized businesses make that culture, right? And they preach that same gospel. SMEs might be encouraged to do that. Then now it's all about attacking the big tech to make sure that we are keeping them accountable. Where do you get these data sets? You need to make them public, what they paid, what they compensated, and they need to find a way to compensate. I don't think it just necessarily has to be money. And why I say that is because you can't pay 1 million people $1,000, right? That's like what? I don't know. That's my other concern. Like, how do you get that data set and pay everybody like what they're supposed to be paid? So there needs to be kind of an understanding behind that on how it can be a sustainable business model also.
Maybe the problem with this is the fact that a lot of tech companies or people doing this is self-regulation. And the problem with self-regulation is I'm only wrong as far as I say I'm wrong. There is no metric, no one is measuring, like you can't measure this against anyone. And I like that we keep circling back to the time is now to start actively asking for legal policies to be put in place. Because if we don't do it now, if we don't start now, by the time we are getting geared into that, like will be too past us to even like be protected as journalists or like even the information, the kind of things we're getting. So I do think this is tying a lot into that conversation now we're having for police. That we cannot have this conversation for AI and then we go home and we're like, we will employ it in our newsrooms before we start these conversations for the legalities and putting pressure, like beyond, it's nice that these companies are mostly in Silicon Valley, but they're operating here, right? We cannot employ the things you have there here in our context and say we're good cheers. It's not actively lobbying that yes, you put in place whatever you have there, but like we do need systems and policies for Africa, especially here in Africa, like that cater for this context specifically, and the ways in which we're evolving and embracing even AI.
I know we're out of time, but just one line, one sentence. One thing that's going to solve all of this problem, blockchain. That's the whole conversation to get into. I know we don't have time to start, but the blockchain technology, that if somebody get access to your data and the data, so they can actually know that that data belongs to you, and the person used the data to move on to 3, 4, there's transparency, then we'll have a lot of the policies will actually need to be used and everything. So blockchain technology, that's where we're going to get into. It will take time for us to be able to get into it, but I'm just saying that's one of the best solutions we're going to see.
Yes, I also really want to emphasize on the African context, because we always think of AI and ML in terms of the other countries. I know there's some AI tools that weren't able to recognize African languages because it's foreigners who are feeding them this, all of it, so they can't recognize it. So we really have to have that African context discussion.
Yes. Like, take 2 questions. They're pressed for time.
Hi, everyone. This is Eddie Shira. So, thank you for everything you've done. Thank you for the session. However, to be completely honest, I'm feeling a bit shortchanged because my tag here says we're supposed to talk about AI and African media, and from what you've said so far, I feel like we've scattered around the issue, especially when it comes to AI and African media. I say this in respect to, say for instance, when I was reading about AI in the New York Times, and I clicked upon, say, even more, the website will generate images for me at least on the site to be able to give me an experience. So my question is, for us as younger journalists, as younger people who are trying out AI and who want to learn more about AI, how can we then use it? And even you haven't given us at least some tools. You just mentioned, say it's some tools. You don't mention these tools. And we're here, I'm assuming you're the expert, so you need to give us specificities. And I say this in due respect to what Chancellor Nyambo said in the previous session about people no longer willing to go to war. But now this is our war. AI is our war, and it's what we are grappling with in the modern world. That is the first part of my question. The second part and last, without being too greedy, is that I hope my client is not here, but I used ChatGPT the other day to write a creative script. And I struggled a lot with the script, getting injections here and there. But when I did use ChatGPT in putting in, the key specific words and a phrase, it actually brought the story for me much better than I could have written. And I submitted that, and I got paid for work that was not really bad. We all know this is not the hill to die on, but
This is being recorded, by the way.
I'd like to say that was an example. So for us, as journalists, and when you talk about AI, us as Africans, most of the times we get to adapt the AI that has been created outside Africa. We are third-rate users, so to speak. It's not that we create these things, with a tunnel vision of African AI. It's what has been created, we adapt to our own cultures. So you as the experts here, what are your learnings from this? And can you give us specific concrete examples rather than just cutting around the issue?
I want to ask, there's some things that we're creating, yeah? Because this doesn't come out yet, so I think when it comes out, you will know. Trust me, you will know. That a lot of time when you Google something for a particular area, you only see what Google tells you. I'm not against Google, but we wrote a piece of code that is actually able to curate details about a particular location and bring you the right context of information you need for that area, especially pictures. But if you look at a lot of websites we have in Kenya, there's very little search engine optimization that is being done to be able to actually bring out what they have. I asked a lot of models, all the pictures you post on Instagram, do you know at least 20 websites actually pull that data of the pictures you post on Instagram if your profile is actually public. And they use it to do anything. Why? Because they've written search engine optimization code to be able to do what they're supposed to do. They use your pictures for other things out there that you have absolutely no idea about. It's not even yours anymore. So we need to start making sure that the kind of hashtags we put out there, the kind of tags that we put for pictures or videos or music, all of that, we need to feed that information to all of these search engine optimization tools to be able to do that. I don't think it costs too much for you to optimize your website to actually bring out details about you. If you Google my name right now, say Cybersecurity Africa or Kenya, you'll see my name comes up on top. Why? Not because I've done too many interviews, because I've actually optimized my simple one-page website to bring out details that I've put in as keywords. So we need to start feeding that. The outside world has done that really perfectly. If you look at Korea, China, Russia, US, all of those countries have done it really well. We need to take the charge as African media personnel to start a lot of search engine optimization. Please talk to developers. They know how to do this. It doesn't cost too much for you to do that.
Well, yeah, and I want to take the first part.
The first part of the question, which was basically the AI, the processes. So I'm gonna give you a few of the processes where AI can be used or can enhance your work. So the first one is lead generation. So when you think about it, sometimes stories don't just come. So for me, I'll give the one top of mind, TweetDeck. So anything that's trending on Twitter, I'm on top of it, like this. And like TweetDeck basically is not like a hard thing to navigate, and it's also not gonna be like.
Does it exist anymore? Because Twitter took away the API.
They did take it away, but that's, what do I say?
So it's still
It's still there,
okay.
it's just not as optimal as it used to be. But it's still a space you can start with. Then also very quickly, Google Trends, when you think about it. Google Trends are here in search. What have people been looking for? That tells you a lot about your audience, right? So AI, so in that part, so I'm going to lump this up around the audience. So you can track audience personas, like just knowing who's coming to your site. So for example, like with TweetDeck, I can easily with the bots. There are a lot of bots you can like employ on Twitter, right? There are a lot of bots you can also create. We did create one during COVID where you could send a text on WhatsApp, then you get like hospitals, like links to hospitals you could go get vaccines. So that's a way as we explore bots during COVID with Africa Data having audit with them. So I'm just saying when in the newsrooms, you can explore using AI as a form of storytelling. Then maybe the other thing would be automating follow-on newsrooms. So as you said, some processes, you can automate the payment, the posting. There's a project management tool called Monday.com. Monday.com is really used, it's AI, yeah? And it like helps you stay on top of your project, and you don't have to have so many people managing your social, so many people doing a lot of other things. Marketing. The most intuitive spaces you can check out, like the Facebook, I know the Meta, what is it called? The Meta has like, when you go book for like the adverts, when you want to boost your thing, they do it specifically to people either who will be irritated by your content or who love your content. And that boosts your things, yeah? So I do think that these are some of the ways we can think of integrating AI small through our processes, and also tracking, for example, activity time. When are people in Kenya reading? We're not there on phones, so that you know when is the best time to post this story. If it means that people in Kenya only log into YouTube from 5 to 7, where is your news story up at 1 p.m.? You get. So like I do think for us, we can, because YouTube, again, that's the use of the algorithm, yeah, which is basically also machine learning AI. So YouTube, Facebook, and I think TikTok lately have really been intuitive in terms of, even like the last day, I remember when I was, I logged on to TikTok, and it didn't even bother, like, when I went to the search, watch took me straight to the Super Bowl Rihanna performance. So you see that's something like, even when you think about it as newsrooms, I think these are some of the things that we need to start thinking about. And then someone mentioned ChatGPT here, and I want to tie this up to how clients and consumer, the audience is shifting in how they consume media. People don't have time to come through 15 paragraphs to get to your point. If I go on ChatGPT and ask, who is Madam Ukwanyaga, they'll get straight to the point. Now I've come to Media House X. We woke up, it was a sunny morning. So you get, like now it's also like for us to start seeing, to start learning from the machines and learning audience behavior. So based on your like audience behavior, what are you teaching to ChatGPT? What's so really impressive about ChatGPT? Then those are some of the things I do feel like we need to start optimizing in our newsroom. So like why can't we have like a quick search bar where when I input something, it's quick, I have the information on my fingertips the way ChatGPT would do. So I don't have to also go through all your work before I get to the last thing. So maybe the last thing I want to talk about is bots. And I know these bots, they sound very stupid, but they've really helped, especially on Twitter. So sometimes you see a hot topic. And I think the best thing about Twitter is once you Google, like just, what I usually do is I get online and say, bot for calendar, bot for, like just a bot for whatever. So the bots, for me, they've been very useful in one, taking screenshots. I want to have receipts when I'm coming for the story, right? And sometimes it's not possible to go taking screenshots everywhere. So it's usually, I think, for tag your bot, like at bot screenshot. It just takes a screenshot, you have your screenshot. Yeah? So I think some of these things I can put them on like a thing, then I'll shout Cynthia and people can have access to some of the bot things we utilize. But maybe that's how I can.
Can I give you one website to go to?
Billboard is a very
There's
beautiful
one website called Futurepedia. My friend just sent that to me. Futurepedia.io. You will get every AI tool there. It's the whole repository of AI tools. Futurepedia.io.
One last question.
Sorry. Yeah, I sold my there, sorry. Yeah. So one of the things that's on the topic of this talk is Web 3.0. And I think one of the things that maybe, Web 2.0, the whole point was that data was accessible to everybody, which meant that most data went to the States, which is why the real reason why GDPR happened was because Europe realized 97% of their data was in US servers. So I'm interested in, probably I don't know how much time we have in the panel, but it's something that we're thinking about because someone finally mentioned blockchain, which is great. But obviously Web 3.0 is like the domain of crypto bros at the moment. But really what it's trying to present is a decentralization of data and power. Because fundamentally underneath this, and I'm interested in the views, is that the reason why we're in such a bad state is because the data are all in the States, whether it's data being trained on or our data or whatever in the Western space. So the introduction of things like Web 2.0, will that change? Because then you're able to control where your data is. You have decentralized web. Meta and other companies have to ask each of the nodes whether they can use their data. There's a whole thing there that I think is quite important for the media to understand. So yeah, just maybe a comment, because I don't know if there's time for a question. But my name's Richard from ADH. We'll put up a series of how to use AI tools as journalists on Africa Data Hub. Let's do that. Okay, thank you.
I'm really happy that you brought that up because my day-to-day life, that's what I build. Not I build, that's what we build. So at the company Mara, we try to build and there are 2 or 3 blockchain application that many Africans, it's actually for Africans, it's not even for outside, that many African developers can start building on Web3 and make the data decentralized. So we are working on that. By the end of the year, the first testnet, the sample area for it to actually practice that will be done. We're trying to get more developers to be able to learn how to code Web3. That it's very easy for us to have decentralized data for Africa, right? You're very right. We don't have. Everything is out there and it's centralized in the states or other places that we don't have control over. That's why we keep on getting the result that we get. So we are at Mara, that is one of our core focus right now. How can we make sure people understand Web3? Now Web3 or blockchain technology is not cryptocurrency. It's not Bitcoin, right? But if we can make it easy for people to actually build a Web3, be able to actually have their data decentralized, be able to help them to be able to create more solutions or move their current applications to Web3, I think we'll have a better solution for that. It's still a process, but I think we're getting there.
Unfortunately, we are pressed for time, so I think we might have to meet our panelists outside for more questions. I'm so sorry. Yeah. But we cannot be able to take any more comments or questions from the audience. So my final comment from my end would be, right, yeah, please, one line.
Oh, okay. One line. So I think for me, it's AI is both a friend and a foe, and it will be like a double-edged sword. However, I do feel that it's not something that should disproportionately make us scared. We should be more enthusiastic than we are scared of the things AI can do for us and the things we can do with AI in terms of journalism. So that's my take.
As a producer, my main goal is always to make a product that is replicatable and can be used over and over. When the internet was new, it was fancy and it was exciting, but people didn't know how to make money with it, so it crashed at some point. We're currently seeing the cryptocurrency as in a crash where the excitement was there, and now it's kind of getting back or solving issues. And I kind of believe AI might go through that baptism of fire. So I tend to sometimes not want to be too excited about cyber tech until big tech or businesses have found a way to actually make products that make money. Now, when that money exists, it's now easier for people to use it for the good actors and the bad actors. So for good actors to kind of also take the center stage as they mostly have. So to me, let's not be too excited, but to be aware of it. Being a fanatic never helped it. Thank you very much.
I would say AI is here to stay. You better start embracing it and make use of it the best way you can. Before, back in the day, you have to get somebody behind the call center to be answering questions. And we have chatbots that are doing it. Because it's learned how to ask certain kind of questions. It's here to stay. So we better just know how to make the best use of it. But don't forget the bad actors are also there. I wrote a piece of malware code that I gave to ChatGPT in less than 2 minutes. I got to be able to modify it to do what I'm supposed to do. But back in the day, that would have taken us like a week. So people are going to misuse it. Just like what said. So be able to embrace it, but also be aware of the dangers that it's going to bring to you.
Just to pick up from our friend that so one thing I want us to do is not to look at ourselves separate from AI. Oh, me, I'm a creative. Easy Mamosa AI. AI is very, very close to us. Spotify uses machine learning models. So I want us to pay attention to the small ways in which machine learning and AI exist in the tools we already use in social media. That way it's not something a far off concept. So anywhere, the baseline will be, anywhere there's a lot of data, there is the potential to use AI. So news gathering, let that be your baseline. Where there's a lot of data, there's potential to use AI. Don't separate yourself from it. All of you are experts as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much for dedicating some time in the afternoon that you pass through the registration desk to pick your meal cards as you go to lunch. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.